several subcategories. I hope all of you understood them. If you don't, you could write to me. Today, what we're going to be looking at are the remaining two fallacies of ambiguity in the book after A3. So we already have finished A1, A2, and A3 in the previous lecture. So today we're going to be looking at A4, which is composition. So what is fallacy of composition? It's a fallacy of ambiguity, obviously, in which an argument erroneously assigns attributes to a whole or to a collection, okay, based on the fact that parts of that whole or members of that collection have those attributes. So keywords to remember in this fallacy are parts and the whole. So you have something which has parts, and obviously those parts make up that thing. So it's about the relationship between the parts and the thing itself as a whole, which becomes a fallacy. So how does it work? So let's just look at it. So in other words, the error of assuming that what is true of a member of a group is true for the group as a whole, right? So you have parts. For example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts that make up something. Let's say a set, okay? So if I say that this set is black, and the reason that I say that is because the one of the members is black, or all the members are black, okay? But just because the members of that set are black does not make the entire set as a whole black, okay? So A is part of B, it could be anything. A has property X, any property. In the example that I just gave you, it was black, right? Therefore, on this information, we say that B has property X also. Now, this is a little problematic, and I'll explain it to you how. Let's just look at this first example. So if we say that every part of a certain machine is light in weight, the machine as a whole is light in weight. But it doesn't work like that, right? We know that sometimes the parts are light, okay? So we have screws and all kinds of stuff that make up a machine or that make up a component or something else. But does not mean that the machine itself becomes light, right? What if there are thousands and thousands of light parts? Just because all those thousands and thousands of light parts are not heavy, that does not mean that the machine when assembled is also going to be light or not heavy. Similarly, uh, in another example, we can say that we have a certain theatrical play, and we say that it is a model of artistic perfection, right? We say that it is a great play. Why? Because, sorry, we have a play and we say that it is, yes, we say that it is artistically perfect because all the scenes that make up that play are also great. But that's not always the case, right? We've seen movies, we've seen plays which are in which the parts individually are great, but when we see it collectively as a whole, the film or the play, it's not necessary that it's going to be great also. Okay. So many of you, I think, would be thinking about history generalization now, right? So history generalization में भी कुछ ऐसे ही हो रहा था कि हमारे पास parts थे और उससे हम लोग एक conclusion की तरफ जाने की कोशिश कर रहे थे, jump कर रहे थे. But there's a little difference, and the difference is that in a fallacy of composition, we say that the machine is defective because one of the parts is defective. So we're not talking about other parts. Okay, so we're saying कि अच्छा उस machine के अंदर कुछ पार्ट्स जो हैं वो लाइट है और उनकी बेसिस के ऊपर हम कह रहे हैं कि पूरी मशीन जो है वो जो है वो उस तरह की है, इट हैज द सेम प्रॉपर्टी. बट हिस्ट्री जनरलाइजेशन में क्या हो रहा था, हम लोग सिर्फ पार्ट्स की हद तक ही महदूद थे. सो अगर मैं ये बोलूं कि एक मशीन है, उसके अंदर 10 पार्ट्स हैं और उसके थोड़े से पार्ट्स जो हैं वो ब्लैक हैं, तो उसका ये मतलब है कि 10 के 10 जो है वो ब्लैक है. दैट वुड बी अ हिस्ट्री जनरलाइजेशन. इन दैट केस what we're doing is we're just looking at the parts. We're not talking about the machine as a whole, right? So this is a very important difference. You should, if you're still confused about it, open your books and look at these sections. Okay, it's going to help you. Okay, so fallacy of composition can be also be understood in another sense in the distributive and collective use. Okay, so I'll give you examples for this. So when we say just because a bus uses more gas, petrol, diesel, whatever, than an automobile, so we know that buses usually use more gasoline than automobiles. So it would be incorrect to argue that all buses use more gasoline than all automobiles. Why is that the case? Because buses distributively use more gasoline than automobiles. We know that कि अगर एक बस है वो obviously एक गाड़ी से chances यही है कि ज़्यादा डीजल या फ्यूल इस्तेमाल करेगी, लेकिन collectively हम ये नहीं कह सकते. Collectively हम इसलिए ये नहीं कह सकते क्योंकि there are much more automobiles than there are buses. राइट सो अगर हम कलेक्टिवली दुनिया में जितनी बसेस हैं ऑटोमोबाइल्स हैं गाड़ियां हैं यानी कि अगर उनको हम देखें कंपैरिजन करें सो ऑब्वियसली ज्यादा फ्यूल जो है वो गाड़ियां ही इस्तेमाल कर रही होंगी क्योंकि वो ज्यादा हैं तादाद में ठीक है सो इस तरह भी इट वुड बिकम अ फैलेसी अगर हम ये बोलें कि गैस जो सॉरी बसेस जो हैं वो ज्यादा इस्तेमाल करती हैं फ्यूल तो दैट वुड बी अ फैलेसी बिकॉज that would be we're not looking at the distributive and collective use of these terms. Okay, so this also falls under fallacy of composition. Okay, so just a second. Yes, so the last one that we have is A5, which is division. And what is that? So it's a fallacy of ambiguity in which an argument erroneously assigns attributes to parts of a whole or to members of a collection based on the fact that the whole or the collection has those attributes. So now basically it's just the inverse of composition. So उसमें हम लोग parts से whole पे जा रहे थे, इसमें हम लोग whole से parts पे जाएंगे, right? So if you want to look at it like in this sense, so if we say that A is part of B, okay, and B has property X, so therefore A has property X also. Okay, so you get it. So A अगर किसी चीज का हिस्सा है और हम कह रहे हैं जिस चीज का हिस्सा है वो खुद जो है बजाते खुद उसकी प्रॉपर्टी ये है, then we can't say if we say that कि उसके हिस्सों की भी प्रॉपर्टी वही है जो उसकी खुद है, so that would be a fallacy of division. Okay, so अगर हम ये बोलें ये गाड़ी है और उस गाड़ी का जो कलर है वो रेड है एंड हम बोलें क्योंकि उस गाड़ी का कलर रेड है इसलिए गाड़ी के जितने भी हिस्से हैं उनका कलर भी रेड है, so that would be a fallacy of division. Obviously this sounds a little weird, such examples are obviously wrong, but इनको बहुत तरह से इस्तेमाल किया जाता है different complicated cases के अंदर where it's hard to distinguish, so it's always good to keep these in mind. Okay, so let's look at the previous example and like twist it around. So तो हमने पहले play की जो बात बोली थी, we're going to look at it again. So the play as a whole is artistically perfect. So पूरी movie या एक film या एक play खुद बहुत अच्छा है. जब आप उसको A to Z पूरा देखो तो it's visually great, it's great. तो अगर हम उसकी बुनियाद पे ये कह दें कि therefore उसके हर scene जो है वो भी जबरदस्त है, then that would be a fallacy of division. ठीक है? Similarly, this is another good example. I think it's very relevant. So if we say the voters can be trusted to make the right decision, right? So हम लोग ये कहते नहीं है डेमोक्रेसी में कि जी अवाम को जो भी फैसला करेगी वो फैसला जो है वो सही फैसला होगा. तो अगर मैं ये बोलूं कि अवाम के अंदर ही मैं भी शामिल हूं तो जो मैं फैसला करूंगा वो भी सही होगा, so then that would be a fallacy of division. Okay, just because the whole is it has some property X, that doesn't mean that the parts or the individuals in that whole will have the same property. Okay, right. So this is just a quick recap of all that we've done. We looked at fallacies of relevance, R1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we went on to defective induction, D1, 2, 3, 4. Then presumption, P1, P2, P3. And obviously the last one, ambiguity till A5, which was division. Okay, so now with this, we're done with fallacies, the chapter, informal fallacies, the chapter on informal fallacies. So now what I expect you to do is get ready for an assignment. Okay.